Now, in this week's interview, we're going to talk to Nick Bogacz. He's been in the business for over 20 years now, 5 locations, doing $10 million a year. Nick has navigated the COVID-19 mess very well, and he's got some great advice. You want to listen to every minute. Let's get started. Alrighty, Nick Bogacz, and you own Karington Pizza and Draft House. You've got a podcast and you've got a book, and I'd like to get to both of those at the end. And Nick, I came across your podcast. That's where I first noticed you. And you've got some good guests on there. You've got some great perspective, and that's why I wanted to get you on here today. So if we could just kind of get started with, like we want to do with everybody, how did you get in the business, and how did we get to where we are now, and how are you moving forward? So with that, I'd like you to go ahead and take it here.
Sure. So Nick Bogacz, I own Karington Pizza and Draft House. We started our business back in 2012, so 8 years ago this September, and we now have 5 locations. We do close to $10 million a year. I started in the pizza business back in 2000, or back in the last century, really, 1996. So I've been in the business for 24 years, started as a delivery driver, worked my way up through many different corporate chains. I fell in love with the pizza business, worked a bunch of different odd jobs and 80, 90, 100 hours a week to get to the point where I'm at. And then I just realized I don't know why it's pizza, but I'm good at it and I love it. And I've always wanted my own business. I had a lot of young entrepreneurial things that I did during my teenage years, and my lemonade stands and flipping baseball cards. And I just decided that it was time. If I was going to do this forever, I had to do it for myself.
Okay, so how did you end up buying that first store? Because when we talked the other day, that was an interesting story. So tell me how you went about that and, made that first purchase back there in 2012.
So the first purchase I made, I was to the point where I knew I needed to get out of my jobs that I had and purchase my own place. So what I did was I started walking into pizza shops in the Oakland part of Pittsburgh, which is like University of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon. It's college town. So when I would walk in there and I would say to the guy, "Hey, sell me your pizza shop," they'd say, "Get the hell out of here," But the fifth guy said to me, "My buddy has a shop for sale across the bridge, which is about 5 minutes from campus." So when I walked in, it was a bar, and I said, "Oh boy!" And I walked in the back, and it was a full pizza kitchen, everything I needed. And we sat down, and I told the guy I wanted to buy it. And he said, "Great." He said, "Well, it's $185,000, and back then the liquor license in our county here in Pennsylvania were separate. They were about $50,000, so that price included the liquor license." And I said, "Well, I really don't have any money," but I told him my story, all these different stores I ran, and he could sense my energy. And he said, "Well, why don't we do this? Why don't you see what you can come up with in the next 9 months, run it under my business name, and then give me that as a down payment, and then I'll finance the rest over 5 years." And that's what we did. And I have the 5 restaurants that we bought. 4 out of 5 have been owner financing. I haven't gone to the banks. I've been able to put little or no money down and buy myself full businesses and liquor licenses. And liquor licenses are like commodities. That $50,000 liquor license I bought 8 years ago is worth close to $100,000 now. And I think I would have actually been 5 for 5, but the fourth one kind of turned the deal around at the last minute because he ended up getting a divorce and wanted all the cash at once. But I've had great luck with purchasing with little to no money. It's not just for houses. You can do it for businesses too.
Right. And there's a reason a lot of people get in trouble in the restaurant business. It is an easy business to get into, but if you're going to get into it, thinking outside the box like you did, you don't need to go to the banks. You find plenty of owners who have had a business so long, and when they say owner is selling because of illness, it usually means because they're sick of the business, and they'll be happy to have somebody come in, take over their little puppy, and pay them over time if they just don't need the cash right now. But very good point there is you found somebody, made them an offer, the timing was right, and you just duplicated that model. Now, another thing you mentioned here is sales fixes everything. And I've noticed that too. That's kind of good when you got your top line going. Expand on that, please.
Sure. So as a young kid, I'll tell you how I found that out. I was working a pizza shop 90 hours a week running a Papa John's, and what would happen is I was the youngest one. So they were like, I'm 22, I'm in charge of a bunch of young kids, and there was 4 general managers in Pittsburgh. There was 8 in Ohio, so it was a group of 12. Every month we'd travel over to Ohio for this meeting, and every single meeting was the same thing. They would say, Art's up 10% in Youngstown, clap for Art. The next meeting, Joe's up in Ashtabula, 10%, clap for Art. Well, I heard the supervisor, or clap for Joe, same thing. So then I would hear this noise that the supervisor wanted to fire me because I had a dirty oven, dirty walls. But meanwhile, I'm working 80, 90 hours a week. And I'm like, man, how do I keep my job? I've got 2 young kids at home to feed. And I realized right then that sales fixes everything. So what I did was I bought the Guerrilla Marketing book, and I can't say that anything in there in particular stood out, but it was the concept of how you need to get outside of your business and go and get the sales. Don't just wait for them to come to you. Next meeting in Ohio, Nick's up 10%, clap for Nick. Next meeting in Ohio, Nick's up 20%, clap for Nick. And the next meeting, Nick's up 45%. Nick, tell everybody what you're doing. What I was doing was I set up to the school board, went in and talked to them, and got our pizzas on the school lunch menu, got in at the cafeteria, got in at the football games, the basketball games, the swimming pools, and then we were hot selling. We were out there making 90 pizzas every single morning. When the phones never even rang, I had 3 drivers take 30 pizzas out, and they would sell them to big box stores, construction stores. They'd $5 for the store, $1 for the driver. So they were making a quick $30 plus tips just delivering those pizzas for 2 hours worth of work. And the store was making, 90 times 5 times a week.
Right.
And,
So
yeah.
we've got to pause on this, because when I hired a manager from Domino's to get delivery going for us, this is one of the concepts he introduced as well, was hot selling. We would whip up some pizzas, and they would take them around to construction sites, just anywhere, people were working. And the story would kind of be, hey, we had a couple of extra pizzas, there's a deal on them. And we were generating revenue every single day off just making pizzas and sending drivers out to find people that were out working, or, kind of like what you're describing, getting to some of these areas where are they going to go for lunch? And all of a sudden you show up and you're a hero. What kind of revenue was that turning into for you?
Well, it was more about, top line revenue. I took that store from $6,000 a week to $12,000 a week. And that was the whole thing. It was, I really believe when you're trying to build sales in any business, that you can't have just one part of one practice that you're using. You need to have an arsenal of sales marketing items that you use to go out and get sales. So that would be just one little thing in my arsenal, and then I would go out and work on getting contracts. And then I would work on mailers for customers that haven't ordered for so many days, and mailers to customers who have ordered so many days, that frequent customers, send them a different offer that maybe is not quite as good, and I think there was a lot of different things that over the years I've amassed in my arsenal that when you start to try to go ahead and raise sales, that's where you need to be successful. And that's what happened with Caliente. We bought the place. It was doing maybe $4,000 to $5,000 a week. And then within a year, we were doing $1 million a year. And then, fast forward year 2, we do close to $2 million. And it was all these little things that you implement. But with any business, you have to have everything right inside your 4 walls before you go out and start to raise sales. You have to have the product correct. You have to have the service steps down and all the key touch points in the business down. And you have to have the staff right. You have to have the right staff to handle the volume. So before you go out and raise sales, you have to have all these things in place.
Couldn't agree more. And with that, talk to me about delegating.
Sure. So, I think what's been interesting is you kind of mentioned my book, The Pizza Equation. And what the pizza equation is I took a little bit from every manager or place that I worked at, and then I put it into a book at the end. So one of the things that I learned was delegating, and it's very important because what happened was I always was the guy who thought that the way that you ran a store or a business was you worked 80, 90 hours a week. Well, what happened is I got a position as a general manager, but I also was a full-time mailman which means I was working 50 hours a week there. So there's no way to work, as many hours as I could work. There's no way to work 150 hours a week. 110, 120 is probably the limit for just about anybody, I think, even in their peak. So, I said, hey, look, I can work 40 hours as your general manager when they came to me, but you can never ask me about how many hours I'm working. I'll take the job if you never push me on how many hours. So they said, go ahead. So do it. So I'm running the mail during the day, and then at night I'm coming in and I'm running the store. Well, what I learned real quick was, I need to learn how to delegate. So the first thing you have to do is you have to figure out what different things can you delegate, and I think the thing that I ran across that works the best is keep the 3 things that make you the most amount of money and then delegate the rest. That's what it comes down to. So in the position of running a store, running the labor was, something that I was very good at. I could cut the costs and write a very good, efficient schedule. So that was something that I kept. Ordering the food, because it's important to watch the food costs, another, thing that makes the company money. And then the third thing I did was raise the sales. But everything else in the business, the cleaning, the staffing, the hiring, those are all other things that I delegated. And sometimes what you have to realize too is when you're delegating to somebody, sometimes you need more than 1 or 2 people to delegate things to. If you're having a problem delegating things, sometimes you need to have an actual staff, that you have to have enough people to delegate the items to, because most times people can do 3 things really, really well. And then after that, things get lost in the shuffle. So I think you have to know when you're delegating how many people you need to delegate to.
One of your podcasts, Burn the Ships, what really caught my eye about that is in the preface to my book, Gun to the Head Marketing, on November 18th, 1518, Hernando Cortez and a small force set sail from Santiago, Spain. 3.5 grueling months later, they landed on the shores of the Yucatan Peninsula off modern-day Mexico. Cortez unloaded his men, supplies, and then promptly set his 11 ships on fire. You don't get more committed than that. Not agreeing with what they did, but that is the level of commitment.
Well, here's the thing that happens. A lot of times people want to start their own business, whether it be the pizza business or any business. And, I think at some point people think about opening their own business and they wonder how to do it. Do they keep their regular job? Do they not keep their regular job? Do they have the courage to go ahead and quit their job? How do they really go ahead and do that? And, my point is this, I had a lot of questions in the beginning. Are you going to keep the post office job? Because in a lot of people's eyes, the post office is a great job. You work there, you make a decent wage. The reason they pay well is because no one would do it if they didn't. And I believe it's a place where dreams go to die, because all you do is work there for 30, 40 years. And then at the end, you retire with a pension. And I think that the thing is like, how do you quit that job when you're going to go open up a pizza shop? People are like, oh, are you going to keep the post office job? I was like, no, I'm all in. I'm burning the ships. Like I can't, you have to have a little bit of, I think there's a couple things that it takes. You have to have some pain. Pain is a great thing for fuel. So I think whether it's the pain of late bills or not being able to know where you're going to pay your kids college from, or whatever it is that you want to, the reason you want to start your business, or that everyone says you can't do it, like pain's a great way to do it. I think another way is when you're saying, hey, I'm going to burn the ships, and know that you have no safety net to fall back on. You have no choice. Like when you come home after 18 hours, you're trying to figure out why you're going to wake up at 4 and go back to work. I think, if you've got that pain of proving everybody right, or proving everybody wrong rather, or if you've got that, hey, I've got no safety net, this is my only chance. My take on it when I opened Karington was, I will not fail, period. I don't care. I'll sleep here. I'll die here. Doesn't matter. I'm not failing.
Kind of a whatever it takes mentality. Whatever it takes. Yeah.
Yep. Make it happen.
I love
that was it. Yes. And that's the whole burn of ships, and I think I've had a lot of friends over the years that, saw what I did, and then they would ask me, hey, I want to start this business, and, should I keep being a salesman? And I'm like, look, you got to go all in. And I've got, my brother's about ready to launch a big business. He's got a great job, a very great job, and, really a hard one to quit. And I was like, look, if you're going to do this big business with a huge investment, like, you got to quit your job. You just got to go all in. Don't let somebody else be there making the decisions that you should be making day to day. Like, you got to go all in.
Yeah.
And burn the ships. So once I give my burn the ship speech, usually to the guys in the business, next thing I know, the next day they're like, I quit my job. I'm like, oh boy, like okay.
Yeah. Nothing like being
100%
committed.
Yeah.
So Nick, you've been in the business since 2012. You got in by being creative with financing. You started delegating. Sales are going up. You're just baking pizzas, selling them on the streets, whatever it takes. And now, March 2020 rolls around. How did this affect your business? How did you react?
I'll tell you how I reacted first. I went right back to what we just talked about 2 minutes ago, or not even. Whatever it takes. I worked too hard for this to kill me. I'm going to, whatever it takes. I went back to that simple mentality from the beginning that no matter what, I won't fail. That's what I went back to. And I worked day and night in the beginning to make sure we positioned ourselves as one of the industry leaders. We did curbside pickup before anybody else. We were doing the no contact delivery before they even shut us down. We were doing all kind of different promotions and gift card sales and everything we could, and feeding the hospitals. We fed, I'm trying to think of how many pizzas we gave for the feeding the hospitals, just because it was the right thing to do. But, there's a lot of things that when you're doing the right things, you get good publicity out of. And I mean, we did 35 different hospitals, like 4 different times. And I mean, there were just so many different things that we just went back to getting really, really aggressive. That was March, April, May, a little bit of June. Then we have 150 seats in each restaurant. Then they let us open our restaurants back up. And, it's been like a slow burn pretty much of, going down week after week. It's been a little rough lately because the dining rooms have been taking such a hit. And then with it being summer, everybody's been going to outside dining. So we're kind of looking forward to fall, but it's really not in our nature to wait for anything. So we are going to open back up for the dining rooms next week, and we're going to get aggressive in our football promotions and stuff like that. And we went ahead and we put partitions through all the tables, and we turned all the menus into QR codes. So all you do is you come in, hit a QR code, and you got the menu on your phone, so you don't need a menu. And we've got a lot of different things in place to keep people safe. And I think the thing for us has been, we've been fine financially, but what do you do? The mental anguish of it every day. We have 200 employees, so you want to keep them safe first. And how do you make them feel safe? And there's a lot of different things with this pandemic that are just unknown and first, and nobody's gone through it before. So it's a lot of, blazing the path on what's right and what's wrong.
Now, the pizza kits that you were telling me about, how did that perform? People buying those and baking pizzas at home? Was it adult audience? Was it kids getting these?
Here's something that is just so simple, and in the pizza business for 24 years, and we never thought that it would be such a hit. But, we threw these pizza kits together, 2 pizzas, $20, 2 12-inch pizzas, sauce, cheese, and pepperoni. And they flew off the shelves. I mean, we had to pre-make them because we were selling so many every single week, and we still sell them. And it was kids, it was adults, it was date nights, it was everything, because people couldn't go out. So it was like, hey, we'll buy this on a Saturday night and make some pizzas and watch a movie. And we sold so many pizza kits, but it was just one of those things that hey, wow, we sold $5,000 worth of pizza kits this week, and it's like, that's $5,000 of sales we wouldn't have had if we didn't have pizza kits.
Right.
And that's the greatest thing in the age that we live in right now is social media, because before, this would have happened 20 years ago, and we had a pandemic, how would you get the word out that you even overnight decided you're going to sell pizza kits? You couldn't. But
well, that leads me to my very next question.
Okay, go right at it.
Yeah, paid social versus content, and how you utilize social media to get the word out and keep your customers coming in, keep them informed.
So here's the thing, we got to think about it this way. If we're talking to the pizza business in particular, but even a lot of other businesses, a lot are old school. They think nothing for someone to come in and say, hey, would you like to run an ad in this new glossy looking magazine? Or would you like to be in the newspaper? Or, you want to do this direct mail deal? Like, you would think nothing to shell out, $1,000 to be in the Valpak or whatever it is. But, it's funny. People have a certain perception as a business owner, like, well, I don't want to pay for Facebook. Like, why would I pay to advertise on Facebook? I can do it for free. Like, that's a lot of their perception. But they wouldn't think anything about signing up for this magazine that, 80% are going to go in the garbage and they're filled with a bunch of junk coupons. So why not try something different? So all the way back in 2013, less than a year into business, I discovered paid social media, and I built our business through Facebook. Absolutely built our business. We would run different specials. We'd run events. Hey, we're going to tap this crazy beer on Friday night. We're going to bring a brewer in from this brewery, and we're going to go ahead and have this tasting, and we would advertise it. And next thing you know, there'd be lines out the door. And the only place that we're telling people about it was on social media through paid ads.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, we spend anywhere north of $35,000 to north to $50,000 a year on paid social media. So, we're not afraid to spend big on social media.
Okay, now let's put that in context, though. The 35,000 compared to 10 million in sales. So back in the day, pizzeria marketing was a little spendy. 5-6% is what a lot of people would spend. And that's a discussion I find difficult to have with some owners today, is they think spending almost anything, because Facebook's free, Twitter's free, Instagram's free. But ads, we had Michael Wright come in, do some training for my crew here, and he said it's the big mistake so many businesses make, is thinking just posting content all the time and trying to get likes and shares and things. But he said the paid ads is where you really build a business. And so your cost, as opposed to 10 million in sales, is far less than 1%. And that means instead of all the mailers, all the other ads, anything, TV, radio, whatever, all that extra money's going in your pocket.
And we do a lot of that other stuff. We do billboards, we do TV. Like I mentioned from the beginning, we have an arsenal. Mm-hmm. I don't just do social media. We do all kind of different stuff. I spend heavier on social media. Now, the thing that I'll say here is, on my podcast, The Business Equation, I say something all the time. I say, if you hear things all the time, there's a reason it's probably true. One of the things that you hear is, you have to spend money to make money. You hear that all the time. Well, it's true. And it's true with social media. You have to spend money to make money. You have to do those paid ads because they'll bring you sales. And, would I say you could spend all your money on social media and not do any of that other stuff? You probably could, but you still, I think, would have to spend we do spend roughly about 4% of that 10 million on advertising. We just spread it out very, very well. We do a direct mail still, where every single week between the 5 stores, there's 5,000 menus going out every single week. So, for the whole year, we're doing 250,000 mailers are getting mailed out for the year, and that's big bucks. But
right. So you're doing 360-degree advertising. You're paid social, paid in the mailbox. You're putting up the billboards, basically leaving no stone unturned. When I've had people ask about what do I invest for a marketing budget, I've always said spend as much as it takes to dominate your trade area and stay the dominant player. So whatever that is, if you can make your marketing more efficient, get more out of it, spend less on it, great. But I thought, why limit yourself to 5% if 7% would put 3 competitors out of business? So, I was pretty aggressive as well. And boy, it sure paid off for me, and it looks like it's really paid off for you.
So, well, to your point, I think, I never really have looked at it like a percentage. I actually hate that, to be honest with you, 3, 4, 7%. I hate that, because what I do is I do this. I say, okay, if I have it, you could take that money out and say, okay, I have an extra 20,000. Like, I'm going to go invest it in the stock market. And I look at it like, okay, as a business owner, if I take that 20,000 and I dump it into a marketing campaign, that's my investment. That's my stock market. I'm building it back into my business. I'm putting money back in, and sure, as more money comes in, there's different investments, not to have all my eggs in one basket, but in the beginning, you got to be all in. You got to put all your money towards your business. There is no taking it out and spreading it out and, buying different land and stuff like that. I think you got to go all in and market like crazy. And there's other points where, exactly what you said. How do we become the dominant player? So here we are. Give you a little quick story. About 2 years ago, we get 4 stores. And we say, well, we have 4 stores now. We want to be a little bit more dominant. What do we do? Well, in Pittsburgh, the biggest thing in Pittsburgh, not just the rivers and the bridges, but the Steelers, right? That's the biggest thing in Pittsburgh. So, to go ahead and be part of the Steelers or try and advertise in the stadium or something like that, you're talking buco bucks. That's, light companies, hospitals, Pizza Huts. So what do we do second rate that we can still be in the same breath as the Steelers? Well, the radio station that plays all the games, and they have old players that are the voices of the Steelers. So we went to the radio station. We made up special campaigns, and during halftime, we feed the radio station, and then the announcer comes on during game every halftime and says, "Hey, brought to you by Caliente Pizza. They're feeding the headquarters of the Steelers right now, and feeding the Steeler Radio Nation." And I think we've done different things where we worked our way into giving different contests. Hey, you're going to win 4 tickets to go see the Steelers play the Titans. Sponsored by Caliente, and all these different things that we worked our way in. It was an expensive investment, but I knew by being mentioned in the same breath as the Steelers, in a certain sense, would give us more of a dominant presence. And that's exactly what you're talking about. There's a certain point where you just want to go for the gusto and really position yourself as the dominant player.
Yeah, we benefited the same way. A lot of the Utah Jazz players ordered pizza from us, and so the owner of the team was ordering pizza, and I remember one time one of our drivers backed up our Wasatch Pizza van, and Pizza Hut had the concession inside, but the players and the players' wives, they usually had Wasatch Pizza when the games were over during the game for the wives, and they told us to be a little more discreet next time. But we would also use the radio station and do the same thing, is the sports radio, and we'd take a pizza down there and have them just eat it on air and rave about it. And yeah, exactly, connecting yourself with the team without spending the money to, have that concession in there. And as, a point of connecting yourself to something, what we've been saying too for months and months now is stop talking about COVID-19. You don't want to connect your restaurant to it. A lot of people just kept droning on and on every single email. Oh my God, we're doing everything to keep you safe, and COVID-19. Stop talking about it. Everybody knows it's there, and we don't want, the face mask, get something with your logo so we're not looking like you're eating in a hospital. So Nick, give me a couple of, impactful little nuggets that you would deploy right now. Your restaurant has survived COVID-19. Maybe you're not where you were. What do you think is the most impactful thing that an owner-operator could do right now to start getting some traffic back in their front door?
Well, I'll play off of that. I think the most important thing you can do is you definitely got to watch your costs. That is the most important thing you can do, because as this thing stretches out, that's what's going to be most important, is that you're still standing at the end. So, maybe where before you could count on all these different sales coming in from different things throughout the years, from different events that would happen in front of your store, or big college coming back, and you having huge orders for that. And for orientations and stuff, you don't have that right now. So I think you have to really watch your labor costs, got to watch your food costs, and you got to be all over those numbers. And then I think the next thing, as far as driving the traffic, I think you promote not so much not exactly what you're saying. You don't necessarily throw the word COVID out there, but I do think that people want to know that you're open. And I think that's what you're letting them know is, hey, the very clear communication of what your hours are and when you're open and what you're doing, as far as there's nothing wrong with taking a camera through your store and showing the partitions and showing the QR codes and, hey, we are safe, and showing the tables are spread out. I think there still are people, especially in our area, that want to know that you're doing the right things, and sure, there's people that just don't care, but there's a bigger part of society that still want to know that, deep down, that they can go out and have a dinner, and then they can still go over and see their elderly mother and not worry about getting her sick. So I think there's a lot of things that you can be doing in there with reopening.
Now, Nick, one of the things too, I feel that this is going to be maybe the biggest restaurant building opportunity of our lifetime because of what I call the the free range customers that are out there. There are so many restaurants closing down, and so a lot of people, as they go to check on their favorite restaurant, it's closed, and they're like, oh, well, where do we go now? And you talked about doubling down, and I believe, I mean, just 100% that right now, burn your ships, double down. This is your moment if you're going to go big. Is you can't be tentative, you can't be hesitant. You got to go big right now. You got free range customers running loose. They're needing to wire up to some new restaurants. And anyway, let's end with telling me a little bit, about your podcast, and then I want to know what we're going to learn by digging through your book.
Sure. And I think just to play off the part at the end, you're absolutely right about the double down. And my strategy was we're going to go ahead and open a 6th store in April this year is what was going to happen, and we had to kill the deal because of COVID. So my thought was, we're back in the gym right now. We're working really hard at our procedures. We're training our managers up. We're training our mid-level managers to be upper managers, because when this is all over, and I believe, 2022, I think we'll get a whole nother year of this in 2021 until they figure out what's wrong and figure out a fix for it and a vaccine. But when we come out of this thing, we were opening 1 store a year. We're going to open 1 a quarter. And that's going to, I'm going to open 1 a quarter. So 4 in 2022 and 4 in 2023. And we're going to triple the size of the business in 2 years. So we're just preparing for that right now, because back in 1987, when the stock market crashed, it made millionaires afterwards. And when the housing market crashed in 2008, it made millionaires afterwards. And this is going to be the time that the restaurateurs, the smart ones, are going to be able to double down and become millionaires after this. So that's kind of my thought. As far as the pizza equation, you can find it on Amazon. It's a great book. It's got my story in it. It's got lots of tips and tactics, stuff that I've done throughout the years, easy sales building items, lessons that I learned throughout the years. And then every Monday, you can catch me on the Business Equation podcast. As you mentioned, I bring on a lot of different guests in a lot of different industries. We go through and try to solve their equation of what's made them successful, what makes their business tick, and try to help them out with any issues they may have going on in their business. I think it's a great listen for any entrepreneur, and especially a young entrepreneur getting ready and getting into any industry.
Nothing like learning from success and other people's mistakes. Nick, I really appreciate it. This is a great perspective on what's going on right now. You've got the rags to riches story. You're in the middle of the biggest meltdown of our lifetimes, and pizzerias were kind of in the sweet spot for that, and you're going to ride this thing out to an even bigger success on the other side. So again, I appreciate you being on here today, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
You betcha. As usual, I appreciate you watching this video, and if you found it helpful, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up down there. It'd mean a lot to me. And if you're not already subscribed, do that now so you're the first to know when I've got some new tips and some new interviews for you. Until then, I will see you next time.